In the last video we covered the main components that appear in the Blender window. Now, let's look at some of those in a bit more detail. The top bar consists of two main areas. To the left is Blender's main menu bar. And to the right of this are the various preset Blender window layouts. In the main menu we'll find the File heading, which contains, amongst other things, New, Open, and Save options. New creates a new project and offers a submenu where we can choose the layout we want at the start of the project. When Open is selected, we are presented with Blender's own unique window for selecting the drive, folder and file name. Open Recent gives a list of recently used project files, giving us an easy way of reopening a project. Blender saves not only the scene we've created but also the Blender window layout. So, if we created additional editor areas and then saved our project, it will reopen with exactly the same screen format as before. If we would rather ignore the saved format and load our old project into the current Blender layout, then we need to select the File, Open option and click on the settings icon in the File Load dialog box. From here we need to uncheck the Load UI checkbox. By the way, UI stands for User Interface. Now our old project is loaded into the current layout. Recover has two options. The first of these, Last Session, can be used to reload the final state of the last project we've been working on. This is possible because Blender automatically saves the current project when we quit Blender. The file is called quit.blend. The second option, Autosave, allows us to load a previous project Blender has saved using its automatic backup feature. Save saves the current project. If we've saved the file previously, the older version will be overwritten by the current version. If the file has never been saved before, we'll also need to enter a file name. Save As allows us to save the current project using a new name. Initially, the previous project name shows in red, indicating that this name is already being used. It's worth mentioning at this point that Blender offers a neat feature where we can click on the plus symbol to increment a number added to the end of the file name. There's even a minus option to decrease the number on the end of the file name. If we continue to edit the same project, it's the newly named file we'll be working on. If we find the incrementing file name feature useful, we can use the Save Incremental option to perform the same function automatically. For example, by using this option when working on Die 1, it will save the latest version of our scene as Die 2. Save Copy appears to do the same job as Save As, but there is a subtle difference. After we save Die as Die 1 using Save Copy, the file being handled by Blender is our original file Die and our new file Die 1 remains untouched as a backup copy. Another heading in the main menu which is worth a brief look at this point is Render. Render Image renders the scene as a single image using the currently selected render engine. The result will appear in a separate window. When creating a final rendered image, we can select between two different render engines, Eevee and Cycles. This is done in the render page of the Properties editor. When using the Cycles render engine, it may take several seconds or even minutes to produce the final result. The Eevee render engine, on the other hand, gives a much quicker, but less accurate result. The render window has its own main menu, and within the image menu, we have save options allowing us to specify where we want the rendered image to be stored. Notice that the rendered image uses a different viewpoint from the one in the 3D viewport. We'll discuss this difference in another video. Render animation should be selected when we have created an animation rather than a still scene. Again, this will be covered in a future video. The only thing we'll mention here is that an animation can be saved either as a video file or as a series of still images. The second section in the top bar is the various window layouts that we are likely to want at different stages of a project's development. For example, UV editing creates a window format appropriate to editing how a texture is applied to an object's surface. Animation, on the other hand, sets up a different combination of editors designed to aid the creation of animations within Blender. Moving to the top right section, we find the Outliner editor. In this area we can see a list of every object in our scene. When we start a new project, we have only 3 objects: camera, cube, and light. These are grouped together within collection. We can think of this as a similar construct to having several files within a folder on our computer. As well as displaying the default name of each object, the green icon to the right of the name gives an indication of what type of object each item is. For example, the triangle-shaped icon tells us that cube is a mesh. We can use the Outliner editor's list to select one or more items in our scene. All we need to do is click on the object's name and it will be selected. In the 3D viewport, the selected object has an orange outline. By double-clicking on an object, its name is highlighted, allowing us to assign a new, more meaningful name. Developing this habit will make things a lot easier when a project contains numerous items. Notice that the Outliner editor automatically rearranges the list to keep everything in alphabetic order. To delete an object from our scene, we can click on its name and then press the Delete key or the X key. To undo a delete, in fact, to undo any previous operation, we need to press Ctrl-Z. To the far right of each item listed are 2 icons. The eye icon is used to determine if that object is visible within the 3D viewport. For example, clicking on the eye beside box will hide the cube. Notice that the symbol in the Outliner now changes to a closed eye. The camera icon determines if that object will appear in the final render. In the case of the camera object, this symbol is irrelevant since we will be using its viewpoint for the render. Hiding the light from the render will mean that the highlights and shadows created by that light will not appear in the final render. If we click on the eye symbol to the right of collection, then all the items within that collection are hidden in the viewport. Clicking on the collection's camera icon will remove all the items within the group from the final render. If we click on the closed eye icon of the collection again, all the objects reappear in the viewport. The same effect on the final render is created by clicking on the collection's camera icon. Notice that the icons for the items within are unchanged when we click on the collection's eye or camera icons. However, if we hold down the Shift key when clicking on the open eye icon of collection, not only are all the objects in the collection hidden, but their open eye icons of each changes to closed eye. Now clicking on collection's closed eye has no effect on the items within the collection and they remain hidden in the viewport. To have all the objects in the collection become visible in a single operation, we must again hold down Shift while clicking on the closed eye. When our scene contains many items and those items are constructed from several meshes, it can be useful to create a new collection for each item. A new collection is created by right-clicking in the Outliner area and selecting New Collection from the pop-up menu or by clicking on the New Collection icon at the top right of the Outliner. Once the new collection appears, we can double-click to rename it appropriately. With the new collection selected, any new items we add to our scene will be added to that collection. If an object ends up in the wrong collection, all we need to do is drag it to the required location. Notice if we delete a collection by pressing the Delete key, only the collection heading is deleted, its contents remain, although they are no longer part of a collection. To delete the collection and its contents, right-click and choose Delete Hierarchy from the pop-up menu. Collections can be nested. For example, we can create a room collection and place our sofa and floor light collections within it. We can drag a whole collection to create the structure we require. One more minor option available from the Outliner's pop-up menu allows us to color-code a collection's icon. This may be useful if we want to classify different types of collections. Normally, we'll want to see the items within a collection, but if that is not required, all we need to do is click on the triangle beside the collection name to collapse the contents. To re-show the contents, just click on the arrow again. Collapsing and expanding the collection's contents in this way has no effect on what is displayed within the 3D viewport. The Properties editor appears immediately below the Outliner editor. It displays a vertical line of icons and each of these acts like a tabbed page, with each displaying a different set of properties in the area to its right. Note that exactly what icons appear in the vertical line depends on the object selected in the Outliner editor. For example, the cube object, when selected, displays a longer set of options in the Properties editor than does the light. Below the 3D viewport is the Timeline editor, which is used when we are creating animated scenes. It has various controls such as play, pause and rewind. Again, the details of this will be discussed in a later video. And at the bottom of the window is the status bar, which is used primarily to display some of the options available to the user as a next operation. Currently, the options showing are: press the left mouse button to select the object under the mouse pointer. Hold down the middle mouse button and drag to circle around the scene in the 3D viewport. Press the right mouse button to activate a pop-up menu. The final area of the Blender window is the 3D viewport editor. But, since there's a lot to say about this section, we'll leave that to the next two videos.